My coworker and I were sent on a business trip. That night, she showed up at my hotel room door. The air conditioner in room 412 rattled every 11 seconds. I had counted. At 1:15 inches the morning, the metallic vibration was the only predictable thing left in the room. 14 floors below, horns and sirens moved through Manhattan while the blue light from my laptop spread across the glass desk. Nearly every cell in the East Coast routing table had turned red. 14 containers of Q4 microcontrollers had missed their scheduled transfer from the port of Newark. Without those components, the company's assembly line outside Chicago would stop within 48 hours. Once that happened, every idle minute would cost more than most people earned in a year. Turner Logistics was responsible for the shipment. Marcus Turner had stopped answering calls at noon, then sent an email at 1:05 a.m. to Claire Anderson, legal, the chief operating officer, and 6 board members. He claimed 3 invoices were overdue and said he would hold the containers until we paid invented storage penalties and accepted a 30% rate increase. I had verified every payment 2 days earlier. Claire had spent 2 years building the East Coast hub. If the shipment failed, the board could freeze the expansion and remove her. My routing system was under the same scrutiny. If Marcus could hide 14 containers inside it, my credibility went with hers. Paying him quietly was impossible because he had copied the board. Canceling the shipment would stop production, and legal needed authenticated proof of diversion before issuing a breach notice. I had just opened the shared freight visibility portal when someone knocked on my door. 3 short strikes. Pause. 2 more. The digital clock changed to 1:17. Nobody from our project team was supposed to be on the 14th floor except Claire and me. The junior analysts had rooms 6 floors below. I closed the confidential routing window, stood, and approached the door. The security chain remained in place when I opened it several inches. Claire stood in the corridor. She wore a dark hotel robe over a long-sleeved pajama set. Her room key was in one hand, and her phone was in the other. The screen showed 5% battery. The card clicked against the phone before she steadied both. "My lock stopped reading the key," she said. Her voice was controlled, but the words came too quickly. I went to the ice machine. The door closed behind me. Engineering opened the lock panel, but the reader has failed completely. The replacement encoder is coming from another hotel. How long? They said 60 to 90 minutes. The night security officer cannot leave the lobby while their camera system is restarting, and the manager offered to let me wait downstairs. Why didn't you? She looked at the laptop behind me. Marcus sent the email while I was in the hallway. My phone is almost dead, and I cannot open the secure vendor portal from it. The crisis gave her a practical reason to be there. The failed lock gave her no immediate way back into her room. The board deadline meant neither of us could wait in the lobby until morning. I opened the door wider. "You can work at the desk. The door stays open until you decide otherwise." Her eyes moved to the chain and then back to me. "Thank you." Claire stepped inside. I took my gray suit jacket from the chair and placed it on the back of the empty armchair rather than handing it directly to her. "The air conditioner is stuck on its highest setting. Use that if you need it." She closed the door, but left the security latch disengaged. That was her choice. The room held 1 bed, 1 armchair, and a desk barely wide enough for the laptop. Claire sat near the window and connected her phone to the lamp charger. The front desk confirmed that room 418's reader had failed during the hotel restart. An authorized technician and replacement encoder would arrive in about 70 minutes. A lobby conference room was available, but reconnecting my secure system there would cost 15 minutes. Claire looked at the red routing cells. "We do not have 15 minutes." She folded my jacket across her lap and drew the chair closer. "Show me Turner's email." I rotated the laptop so she could read it without leaning across me. Her eyes moved from the false payment claim to the proposed rate increase. "He wants me to approve this before the board meets in Chicago," she said. "He wants you to approve it before legal can challenge the penalties. He knows the production deadline. He also knows the board has questioned the cost of your regional hub." Claire sat back. The air conditioner rattled again. "If I pay him, I admit the penalties are valid. If I refuse and the assembly line stops, the board will say I protected my pride instead of production." We prove he caused the delay. How? The vendor agreement requires every assigned truck and container chassis to report GPS positions through our shared visibility portal. The records are contract data. We are authorized to use them for routing, payment reconciliation, and compliance. I opened the portal. 14 container IDs appeared on the screen. Their public status showed port congestion awaiting release. The signed GPS feed told a different story. At 6:42 the previous morning, all 14 containers had left the approved Newark transfer yard. Instead of traveling west toward the rail terminal, they moved 23 miles south. The final pings came from a freight yard that did not appear anywhere in our vendor contract. Claire pulled her chair closer. Magnify container 407. Its location history showed 3 hours at the port gate, 48 minutes on the highway, and nearly 19 hours at the unauthorized yard. The demurrage invoice says storage began at Newark, she said, but the container left Newark before the invoice was created. The billing file confirmed it. The container departed at 6:42 a.m., while Marcus generated the penalty at 8:10. Claire wrote both times on the hotel notepad. I exported the signed location records with verification certificates, then sorted 6 months of gate receipts. Turner's previous shipments used 3 approved yards. Number 9. Tens 3. The missing containers were logged at a 4th code, NJ88. Claire opened the contract appendix. NJ88 is not listed. It could only be used with written approval from us and the cargo insurer. We gave neither. Claire studied the route map again, this time without reaching for the keyboard. She drew a line from Newark to NJ88 on the notepad and circled the invoice time. He expected us to look only at the status label, she said. The public screen says congestion, so the board would assume the port caused the delay. I nodded. But the signed feed records where the cargo actually went. She turned the notepad toward me. Then we build the case from the source data, not from his explanation. I contacted Miles Bennett at the Chicago Operations Center and asked for Turner's archived toll reconciliations and carrier invoices. You think he created the penalties after moving the freight? He asked. I know he moved it. I need an independent record from data Turner already submitted to us. Give me 20 minutes. Claire heard his voice through the speaker. Is that the one who thinks 3 backup chargers are excessive? Miles sighed. Julian carries enough equipment to reopen an airport. The 3rd charger is for your 2nd charger failing, I said. Claire laughed once, quietly, then returned to the contract. While Miles worked, I ordered tomato soup, a turkey club, and black coffee from the late-night menu. I'm not hungry, Claire said. You moved lettuce around your plate at dinner. She looked up. You were watching? You were presenting beside the food. When room service arrived, I set the soup near her contract. The board needs you thinking clearly in the morning. Claire took the spoon, 1 bowl. That is enough. She ate while I compared the approved route with the actual one. At 2:19 a.m., Miles delivered the archived toll file Turner Logistics had submitted for reimbursement. 6 assigned trucks had crossed the toll points leading to NJ88. The GPS feed and toll record came from separate systems and matched within 3 minutes. Claire set down the empty bowl. Legal has enough for a preservation notice and an immediate release demand. I opened the vendor agreement. Section 14 allows suspension. Section 17 permits termination for fraud or intentional diversion. You memorized the agreement? Only the parts people later claim they misunderstood. With her phone charging beside us, Claire called Lena Park, corporate counsel, through the secure application. She presented the evidence herself and asked for preservation of dispatch records, yard footage, driver logs, and billing files. Do you want to terminate Turner tonight? Lena asked. Not until the containers are physically secured and replacement capacity is confirmed, Claire replied. Lena agreed to issue a written release demand and instructed us not to contact Marcus verbally. Every step would remain documented until the cargo and insurer status were confirmed. A knock announced the hotel engineer and night manager. Claire verified their identification through the peephole before opening the door. Her replacement key was ready at 2:43. She folded my jacket across the chair. Keep it. The hallway is cold. My room is 6 doors away. The hallway is chilly for all 6. She slipped it over the robe and stopped at the threshold. You could have solved the route without me, she said. I could have found it. You found the contract sequence and chose not to terminate before the cargo was safe. Her gaze moved to the laptop. We did it together. We found the diversion. The containers are still missing. 2. Then I'll see you at 6:30. That gives you less than 4 hours. Ow. 3 hours and 47 minutes. That is not an improvement. She smiled faintly. Good night, Julian. At 5:58 a.m., an urgent compliance alert woke me at the desk. Marcus had accused our Bronx warehouse of falsifying inventory records and storing controlled electronics outside approved bays. Auditor Evelyn Harris would arrive at 11. A serious discrepancy could lead to a temporary operating restriction, delaying the Q4 shipment beyond the production deadline. Marcus had hidden the containers, then accused our warehouse of failing to record them. Lena had already received the notice. Cooperate fully. Use only authenticated records. I'll join remotely and issue a litigation hold. Turner still claimed the freight was at Newark, despite the signed location history. At 6:21, Claire opened her door in a navy suit. My jacket hung neatly behind her. I handed her the tablet. If Harris restricts the facility, Marcus will blame the hub, she said. We have the GPS feed, gate records, toll reconciliation, and his demand. We need the physical ledger and receiving bay camera archive. And your recommendation? We reached the Bronx first. You lead the compliance response. I authenticate the transport data. The warehouse team performs a physical count in Harris's presence. Claire picked up her briefcase. Then Marcus can explain why his trucks left the approved route. Traffic slowed near the bridge, giving Claire time to review the response one more time. She started to reopen the same page, then set the tablet face down. If I read it again, the numbers will not change. That may be the most efficient decision you have made all night. She looked through the windshield. Do not become comfortable. The line was dry enough to make me smile, and for the next 3 blocks, neither of us touched the files. During the drive, Miles called with another discrepancy. Turner's demurrage invoice had been generated 28 minutes before the first truck reached NJ88. The electronic signature verified the system time. Send it to Lena, Claire said. Already done, Miles replied. Please note that Julian once called my work merely adequate. I criticized your coffee, I said. Claire closed the ledger with a brief smile. Both claims may be accurate. At 10:38, we entered the Bronx Distribution Center. Forklift alarms echoed through the loading bays, while warehouse supervisor Elena Ruiz brought us the inventory sheets, receiving logs and camera records. The 14 containers had never reached the facility. The affected bays were empty, and the ledger showed nothing falsely received. Claire reviewed every page without changing a single entry. We provide the records exactly as they existed before the complaint, she told Elena. Auditor Harris arrived at 10:57 with 2 compliance officers. Marcus pulled in less than a minute later. As the complainant and vendor representative, he was permitted to remain in the conference area while Harris verified his documents. Claire met the auditor at the entrance. We will cooperate with the full scope of your review. Counsel is available by secure video, our records are preserved, and Julian Foster will authenticate the carrier data. Harris opened her tablet. Mr. Turner alleges that 14 controlled electronics containers are missing from your inventory ledger. They are absent because his company never delivered them, Claire said. Our warehouse did not record cargo it did not receive. Marcus stepped forward. The freight remained at the port because her department failed to resolve outstanding charges. Claire handed Harris the paid invoice confirmations. Those charges were created after the containers left Newark. We will show you the transport record. Harris began with the warehouse, not our accusation. Her team inspected the affected bays, compared the receiving ledger with physical inventory, and reviewed camera footage from the scheduled delivery window. After 40 minutes, the result was clear. No unreported cargo had entered the facility, and the ledger matched the physical count. Only then did Harris ask for the routing evidence. I signed into the shared visibility portal. Section 9 of Turner's agreement requires these location events. Each record carries the carrier's digital signature and the portal's timestamp. The map showed all 14 containers leaving Newark and stopping at NJ88. Harris matched every container ID against Turner's manifest. "Is that an approved facility?" she asked. Claire opened the contract appendix. "No, we issued no overflow authorization, and the cargo insurer received no request." Marcus leaned toward the screen. "GPS feeds produce errors near ports." Harris looked at the 14 identical routes. All of them followed the same highway to the same yard. He gave no answer. I displayed Turner's toll reconciliation, which his own company had submitted for reimbursement. 6 assigned trucks had passed the toll points, leading to NJ88. The gate receipt carried the same unauthorized yard code. Finally, I opened the invoice timestamp. The storage penalty was generated before the first assigned truck reached the place where the storage supposedly occurred. Harris turned to Marcus. "Do you have dispatch records that contradict this?" Our systems are being reviewed." "You filed an emergency complaint. Did you verify the cargo location first?" His attorney answered. "My client will respond in writing." Harris sealed Turner's manifest inside her evidence case. "This limited inspection finds no unreported inventory at the Anderson facility. The physical count, receiving ledger, and camera record agree. I will issue a preliminary finding of compliance and refer the carrier discrepancies to enforcement." Marcus objected that the evidence came from Claire's department. "The toll records came from your company," Harris replied. "The gate receipt carries your vendor code. You may challenge the evidence through the enforcement process." Claire opened the agreement to sections 14 and 17. Lena appeared on the conference screen and issued formal notice of termination for unauthorized diversion and fraudulent billing. "If the containers are not transferred by noon," Claire told Marcus, "counsel will report the diversion and pursue contractual damages." Marcus gathered his papers. "You do not have enough replacement capacity." Claire turned to me. I opened the plan Miles and I had prepared. 3 approved carriers had chassis within 20 miles of NJ, 88, 2 had confirmed drivers, and a third held backup capacity. Even with the emergency surcharge, the cost remained below Marcus's proposed increase. He had expected us to prove him dishonest. He had not expected us to make him unnecessary. Claire signed the termination notice. Release the freight. Harris also required Marcus to preserve the dispatch logs, yard camera footage, and original billing records. Claire signed the acknowledgement of the preliminary finding only after reading every line. She did not celebrate while the cargo remained in his yard. Instead, she called the replacement carriers herself, confirmed their insurance certificates, and authorized the emergency surcharge from the regional contingency budget. The decision cost money, but it protected the production deadline without accepting Marcus's terms. Marcus left with his attorney. At 11:46, his dispatch office confirmed access to NJ88. By 12:08, the first replacement driver had entered the yard. Claire waited until the first driver confirmed entry before she finally smiled. By 3:30, all 14 containers were moving toward the rail terminal. Harris's preliminary compliance finding arrived before 5. Claire placed it beside the routing map in the warehouse office. "The hub stays open," she said, "and the containers are moving." For the first time since the knock on my hotel door, no decision demanded her immediate attention. I pushed a paper bag across the desk. "Dinner? You missed breakfast and lunch." Inside were 2 turkey sandwiches. Claire looked at the second one in my hand. "You bought one for yourself." I learned from audits. We ate while the tracking dots moved west. That evening, we flew from New York to Chicago. Claire reviewed the transition plan until the cabin lights dimmed, then fell asleep against the window. Cold air moved across our row. I asked the flight attendant for a blanket and placed it over her lap without waking her. By midnight, the first containers reached the rail terminal. By Wednesday afternoon, the replacement network had delivered the entire shipment, and the assembly plant confirmed production would continue without losing a shift. At 12:17 on Wednesday, the plant supervisor called while Miles and I watched the container clear the receiving gate. Its scan changed the last red cell on the dashboard to green. Claire joined and asked him to verify seal numbers and first production release. Only after quality control accepted the shipment did she close it. Miles leaned toward my screen. 71 hours. 3 carriers. 1 state review, and no lost shift. You forgot the hotel lock, I said. I classify that as a hospitality failure. Claire's voice came through the speaker. I classify both of you as overdue for sleep. A message from Lena arrived before the call ended. Turner's insurer had acknowledged the diversion claim, and carrier enforcement had opened a case. Claire forwarded the notice with Harris's closure letter and plant confirmation attached. Her message contained 4 lines. The freight had arrived, production remained on schedule, the warehouse was compliant, and the replacement network was active. Before signing off, she asked me to remove the overnight alerts from her phone. Only the emergency ones, she added. I still want the morning dashboard. That is not rest. It is progress. I changed the notifications to 1 report at 7. For once, she accepted the setting without reaching for controls. Thursday morning, 70 hours after Claire appeared at my hotel door, the executive board met at headquarters in Chicago. Claire stood at the head of the table, while Miles and I waited with the routing plan. The Turner disruption exposed a vendor control weakness, she said. We corrected it before production stopped, terminated the carrier under the fraud clause, and established capacity across 3 approved providers. She displayed Harris's written finding, the civil claim, and the replacement budget. The new network cost 8% more, but reduced single vendor dependency by 40%. Then she credited my work without handing me a reward she controlled. Julian Foster identified the diversion through the authorized visibility feed, authenticated it against independent records, and designed the schedule that protected production. I recommend that Human Resources open the Director of Regional Logistics position and evaluate his record. Because he works within my division, I will not participate in compensation or final selection. The CEO looked toward me. Are you interested? Yes, provided the reporting structure is independent. The position would report to the Chief Operating Officer. That works for me. The board approved the structure and directed HR to begin its formal review. After the meeting, Miles confirmed that all 14 containers had reached the plant with 0 lost shifts. Claire placed black coffee beside my keyboard. No sugar, she said. I took a sip. Better than the hotel coffee. It came from the executive floor. Miles closed his laptop. I'm leaving, before this becomes beverage routing. Claire waited until he left, then handed me Harris's final closure letter. Carrier enforcement had suspended Turner's authority to handle controlled electronics, and legal had filed the civil claim. The cargo had arrived. Production continued. The audit was closed. Marcus had lost the contract, and Claire's hub remained open. Claire read the final letter once, signed the acknowledgement, and set it beside the coffee. Only then did the tight line at the corner of her mouth finally ease into a small smile. What happens now? I asked. Now you sleep. That is not an operational category. It is when you have been awake for most of 3 days. I slept on Tuesday. You closed your eyes at a hotel desk and woke up with a keyboard mark on your sleeve. That counts. No. She picked up my 3 backup chargers and placed them inside my bag. Go home, Julian. Han. There was no confession. No touch. Just Claire using the authority she had to end the emergency rather than extend it. I went home. 4 weeks later, HR completed the Director of Regional Logistics review. The written offer included salary, responsibilities, and a reporting line to the Chief Operating Officer. Claire had recused herself from the interview panel and compensation discussion. I accepted. My new office was 2 floors below hers, and I no longer reported through her regional division. 2 more weeks passed before she appeared at my doorway. It was 6:30 on a Friday evening. Most of the operations floor had emptied. Claire wore an ordinary navy coat and carried 2 cups of coffee. No emergency file rested beneath her arm. No board meeting waited on the calendar. Do you have a minute? She asked. For coffee? For a question. She placed 1 cup on my desk. It was black. No sugar. You remembered again. I keep accurate records. That sounds familiar. Claire glanced at the routing board behind me. Our reporting lines are separate. HR confirmed there is no supervisory conflict. Your performance review belongs to the COO, and I have no authority over your compensation. That is an unusually detailed introduction. I wanted the conditions clear. They are. She wrapped both hands around her cup. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow? Is this a vendor meeting? No. An integration review? No. A compliance inspection? Her eyes narrowed, but the smile remained. It is a date, Julian. You are free to say no. Nothing about your work changes either way. I looked at the woman who had once stood outside my hotel room with 5% battery and a failed keycard, trying to solve a $50 million crisis without allowing herself to ask for help. Now there was no crisis. She had come anyway. Yes. Claire released a breath through her nose. 7:30? 7. Why? The restaurant becomes crowded after 8. You route dinner reservations. I reduce avoidable delays. She lifted her coffee. 7. We started with dinner. Then another dinner the following week. We kept separate apartments and separate reporting lines. At work, she remained the vice president who protected the hub, and I remained the director responsible for the systems that connected it to the rest of the company. Outside work, she learned that I owned only 3 shirts, not intended for meetings. I learned that she pretended not to like diner pancakes and always ordered one from my plate. 3 months after the business trip, the company held a reception celebrating the strongest Q4 delivery performance in the regional hub's history. Auditor Harris's closure letter had long since been archived. Marcus's company remained under investigation, and our civil case was moving through counsel. The routing system displayed 98% on-time performance. Miles stood beside me near the back of the ballroom. Claire finished her remarks and crossed the room toward us. The chief operating officer was speaking with 2 directors nearby when she reached my side. Julian is here with me tonight, she said, not as part of my operations team. The statement was simple and public, entirely her choice. Miles lifted his cup. I assume this means the dinner route was successful. Minimal delays, I said. Claire glanced at me. He arrived 12 minutes early. Contingency planning. E. After the reception, we walked beneath the hotel awning. Rain tapped softly against the pavement, and traffic moved through Chicago in long bands of white and red light. Claire wore my gray suit jacket over her shoulders. The same jacket I had placed on a chair in room 412. This time, she had taken it from the back of my chair before we left the ballroom. You know, she said, I never returned this properly. You returned it the morning after the hotel lock failed. I borrowed it again, without a formal request. Unquote. I assumed the owner would approve. I need more data. Claire stepped closer and placed one hand lightly around my wrist. The rain moved in a steady whisper beyond the awning. No failed keycard, she said. No missing containers. No audit. No board deadline. Then why are you here? Her expression softened. Because I wanted to be. I gave her time to release my wrist. She stayed. The kiss was brief and warm, ending before the driver at the curb had time to pretend he was not looking. Claire adjusted the jacket around her shoulders. Dinner next Friday? 7. Not 7:30? Traffic increases after 7:15. She shook her head. You turn everything into a routing problem. Only the things I want to arrive safely. She opened the car door, then paused. Good night, Julian. Good night, Claire. The car moved into the rain. Behind me, the hotel air conditioner hummed through an open lobby window with the same metallic rhythm I remembered from room 412. That night, it no longer sounded like a broken system. It sounded like the moment everything had started moving in the right direction. The end.